Hey there, everybody. Welcome to Bedtime Stories with Brad.
I'm Braden.
And here we are. This week's edition is the Wrestling 86. It is the Winter 86 edition of Wrestling 86 and the Crossfire interview with Larry Zbyszko. We did a Crossfire interview a couple weeks ago. This is where Bill Apter and Eddie Elner both interview Larry Zbyszko and throw out both of their opinions on the situation. Again, this is Crossfire with Larry Zbyszko. Braden will be both Bill Apter and Eddie Elner, as I do Larry Zbyszko. Almost everyone in the sport of wrestling has deepest respect for senior editor Bill Apter. Associate editor Eddie Elner is an exception. He doesn't care for Apter on his views of professional wrestling. Each issue, these two editors will grill a wrestler about hot issues in his career. Catching the grappler in the crossfire. The unedited transcript follows.
Bill Apter says, Larry, this is a very timely interview. Now that longtime nemesis Nick Bockwinkel has captured the AWA title. Eddie Elner says, excuse me, Billiam, now that Stan Hansen was robbed of the AWA title is correct. Correct way of describing the set of Jones's circumstances that allow Nick Bockwinkel to possesses the AWA title.
Larry. Right you are. After I beat Bockwinkel, I'm toying with the idea of retiring the belt. Hansen was always a good friend to me. He deserves a better fate than to have his hard-earned title be given to that creepy fossil. Nick Bockwinkel is just an old man who doesn't deserve to be champion. The fact that he's got the title is like a fantasy. The fact that I'll soon have the title is reality.
Bill says, Bockwinkel has never forgiven you for the brutal, uncalled for beating you give him with your nunchakas. Eddie says, excuse me, Bill, for that inspired legal passing you issued rules are abandoned match. I don't believe Bockwinkel will ever invite you out for sushi, correct?
No, but please invite Bockwinkel over so I can complete the business I left unfinished last year. I should have killed him. Who would have cared? His children would have thanked me after the life and insurance was paid and the estate settled. He has no fans, and all of his peers are either dead themselves or in an old age home, with cream of wheat dribbling down their bibs. It's embarrassing that Bockwinkel has the title, but that's what happens when your best friend is president of AWA. Stanley Bergbrain should be dead too.
Bill says, didn't part of your martial arts training teach restraint? I thought that karate taught violence as a last resort.
You are so damn naive, Bill. Next thing I know, you'll be asking me if there's any chance of me reconciling with the Prince of Spaghetti, Bruno Sammartino. Pro wrestling is about survival. The more tools you possess, the better your chances of survival. Given the same skills as myself, Bockwinkel wouldn't hesitate to inflict more and more statistic types of carnage. He's an animal. Have you all forgotten the career he built before his latest change of philosophy? The man is responsible for one of the most violent ring acts in history.
Eddie says, although nothing could surpass your attack on him, that was violence at its purest.
Thank you.
Bill says, do you like being called the Roddy Piper of the AWA?
Do you like being called the ferret-faced fuzzwort of the magazine industry? I am more creative than Roddy Piper, more glib, more articulate, more intelligent, and better looking. And I wrestle. Piper hasn't wrestled in months. Instead, he boxes against morons like Mr. T. Don't ever compare me to Roddy Piper. Never insult me like that. I set the standards in this industry.
Eddie says, so there's no chance the bright TV lights of fame could never diminish your love for the ring. After all, Piper was a very creditable wrestler. Before his talk show began to dominate his time?
No way. I'm bred to brutalize, nurtured to neutralize. My talk show is a nice vehicle. It pays well. It is well received because of how starved all the fans are for real personalities. But after all is said and done, though, I'm a wrestler. Not a manager, not a TV personality, a wrestler. The best there is, incidentally.
Bill says, if you're the best wrestler there is, Why have you never been able to capture a world title?
Because it hasn't been important to me.
Eddie says, you don't expect the fans to believe that, do you? Winning a world title is the goal of every professional wrestler.
It hasn't been mine until today. Previously, I've been too busy engaged in feuds, attempting to teach mongrels like San Martino, Jimmy Snuka, Scott Ledoux, and Bockwinkel some basic tenets of life. Now that Bockwinkel has the crown, I feel it's time to own it. The timing is perfect.
Bill says, but how do you plan to do that? After all, the new Nick Bach. Eddie says, put a lid on it, After. Taking about a new Nick Bockwinkel is like talking about new hair growing on your head. It just doesn't exist. Now I think the question is, how do you plan to win the title that you so richly deserve and spare Bockwinkel's life at the same time? Or is that not a factor?
I see no reason to be concerned about the health of Bockwinkel. The man has already overstayed his welcome and should be pleased that he managed to fool the fans and overachieved in this sport for so long. I would imagine that it all comes with having the right connections. It's no secret that Bockwinkel is friends with Blackburn and the officials. All those guys. I spoke to Hanson just a day before that match in Denver, and he was going out of his mind because he thought that Bockwinkel had the officials in his hip pocket. That didn't surprise me. But if he ever tries to do the same thing to me, I won't walk out. I'll just tear his head out of his socket and do the same to Blackburn.
Bill says, do I take this to mean that you're threatening the president of the AWA?
And after, I'll tear your scrawny head out of your pencil neck too.
Eddie says, well put, Larry.
Thank you. I feel no responsibility to spare injury to those who care to get in my way. San Martino learned that, and Bockwinkel did too. But obviously, he has a short memory. I need not come up with a new strategy to defeat Bockwinkel. I have done it many times in the past, and all I need to do is repeat what I have done before.
Bill says, but from what I can tell, Bockwinkel has changed his style. He's become a much smarter wrestler, yet he's retained his old aggressiveness. Perhaps the old tactics won't work anymore.
Total nonsense. Just more journalistic gibberish about strategy and style and all that crap. Listen, After, you wouldn't know this because you've never had the guts to get into the ring. But when two men wrestle, all that counts is their natural instincts. You can't change that, After, and that's why Bockwinkel is going to find himself in a pretty familiar position, lying prone on the mat, gasping for air, his body futilely trying to fight back. The title lost, death imminent.
Eddie says, how pathetic. Pathetic. Certainly, if any man in wrestling has the ability to fulfill the prophecy, it's you. I find it amusing sometimes how men like After, with all their years in the sport, fail to grasp the simple, basic facts of wrestling. It's certainly been a pleasure speaking with you. Is there anything else you'd like to add before we say goodbye?
The hell with goodbyes. It's time to say hello. Hello to the new AWA champion of the world. Yours truly. And there we go, guys. That is the Crossfire interview from Wrestling 86 from the winter 1986 edition of Wrestling 86. So, guys, thank you for watching. You can check us out on our YouTube channel at Brad's Collection and Braden's Toy Show. We will see you next week. Goodbye.
Bye.